Okay, so we're still out here in the garage dealing with this modification to the Boss 302 heads, and we got our port plates done from the last video. Got all the port work, the blending, everything done. They came out, I think, good, fit good and everything. And then as I got to looking at the existing headers that I had, which that's those laying down there, because they were built a couple years ago for the stock port configuration, as I got to looking at them, bolting them up to the plates, it was really looked like it was going to hurt us, because even though we've straightened out the exhaust port, as soon as it got to the headers, it was still making quite a bit of a turn early on. I mean, you can look at some of the, and so it basically, the airflow was going to be slamming right into a bend on the headers instead of slamming into a bend on the head, and I really felt like it probably wasn't going to, we definitely weren't going to get the benefit of the gains that we were getting from doing the port plates. So nothing to do now but, build a set of headers, and we are really under a time crunch. We got just a few days to have this thing together to go do some testing. It's kind of our last test window before our next race. So anyway, so we got started. Thankfully I had everything here to build headers. I had plates and some header kits and everything, some bins that we had purchased a while back for building a set for the future motor. So anyway, so we got started on that, and basically what I did on this one is, before I even put the heads on the truck, is I cut some 4-inch pieces, and they are welded to the plates, to the exhaust plates, at such an angle that I know it may look weird from here, but it's a straight shot. If you see how much that the valve is angled with the way the ports are raised, it's a straight shot as much as possible right down to the valve. And I spent a lot of time fitting the plates, grinding and welding and getting all the, where everything, there's no restriction where the header bolts up to the port plate. And by coming out that first 4 inches or so straight before we make any bends, this thing really ought to flow well. We also jumped up to a 2-inch tube where we were 1 3/4 before, and that was probably going to hurt us a little bit. So anyway, so I got a couple tubes roughed in over here, trying to keep the lengths the same. I've got this side a little closer. Once I get everything done, of course, I'll trim it up for the collector. And the collector's going to go about like that. And there was only one port that we had to veer a little bit from coming straight out, and that's this one. I actually had to come up with a little bit of a bend, but it's still, with the angle, it's hard to show it in the video, but with the angle of the way the head's tilted and the way the valve is canted, the way the port is raised, that is still a really straight shot. It's not making a super tight bend, because the exhaust is already headed in an upward direction as it's coming out. So that was the only one we had to kind of adapt from, and I think we won't know till we're done, but we've got enough gap between the two port plates that I think these headers will actually come off around the steering shaft. We'll bring them out, and there's a narrow spot in the shaft there. I think they'll turn and come off. We won't even have to take the steering shaft off, which would be wonderful. So anyway, just wanted to do an update where we're at, and I'll continue with my cutting and welding. Okay, so we got all our header tubes roughed in, and got the collectors tacked on and angled about where we want them. We now got to take them off, and the collectors you've got to kind of heat and beat and bend and form them around the pipes. I've already got the pipes welded together in the center, so they're ready just to form the collector around and finish weld those. This header's got to come off and be welded up underneath, and they'll be ready to sandblast and paint. If we do that, we're in such a time crunch right now to get tested, we may just wait and run them a little bit bare, and then take them off when we have time and sandblast and paint them, but we'll see. This one around this side, it worked out good, and of course steering shaft had to go between a couple tubes, but what I'm really happy about is there's a split right in there, and that header comes off around that steering shaft like just a piece of cake. So that's going to really be nice. We kind of thought to start with we'd have to take the steering shaft off every time we took headers off, but it's actually going to be really easy. The only tricky part about these is the top bolts are a little bit tight, because I wasn't willing to give up the if you leave plenty of room for the top bolts on these, you're going to leave a pretty big bump inside the port. I wasn't really willing to give up that flow, so I've got them just as close as I can, and you kind of have to start the top bolts all together and then work them in a little bit at a time, but it's not a big deal. You know, we don't take them on and off every day, and believe me, these are a whole lot easier than what some of the super stock guys deal with, because they have to, you know, get headers that run inside a engine compartment and through fender wells, and they're a pain. So anyway, like I said, I just need to get these off and finish welding the collectors, and we can move on. Okay, so we finally got the motor upgrades finished. We literally got this thing finished and cranked this morning. We are here. It's a Tuesday night. We're here at Beach Bend Raceway Park, Bowling Green, Kentucky. They do a Tuesday night test and tune, so we're going to see what this thing will run after these engine changes. And we've really been hustling to try to make it. This was our last opportunity to test before our next race because of various schedule conflicts. So anyway, we'll see how she does, and I'll try to post a few clips of some runs. Okay, we made it back from testing, had a good successful evening. We got 4 passes in, and came back, everything's fine. We got just a couple little minor oil leaks around the valve cover risers, and just a couple little things to do, and check everything over, but it went well. As you could see from the video clips that we put up, truck was running good. Best we can figure, we picked up about, of course I'm not going to share any times or anything, and if you do happen to see any times on the scoreboards in those clips, they mean nothing, because they had the quarter-mile clocks on and we were just running out to the 8th mile. So I'm not going to share any times, but best we can tell, we've picked up around 1/10 and a half and 3 miles an hour with this change. So that's pretty significant. We'll take that. We've still got another major change that I'm not going to talk about that we're going to do between now and the London, Kentucky race, which is, let's see, we will leave for London 2 weeks from tomorrow. So we've got to get started getting this thing ready for that trip, getting it maintenance and a few things changed. So anyway, hopefully it's going to run significantly better than we have the last few races, and we appreciate everybody following us. Again, I just wanted to post all this as another quick update, and we will see you in London, Kentucky.